Our subject this week has been funding. So all this week we're talking about funding and how we can do the best we can, really. I mean, that's really what we're getting at. There is funding available for autism treatment. It just isn't widespread enough. But there are things that we can do to help ourselves, and it really starts with assessing what the situation is. It's hard sometimes because you got to look with an eye that is forgiving and is really clear and focused, and to see what is not what we wish it would be, or not what we're ashamed of or embarrassed by or whatever, really sitting down and taking stock. So that's the tip that I want to talk about today, is how to do that. Really take a snapshot of where you're at. So here are some different things to talk about. You know, whenever we're faced with a dilemma, it's my dad always used to make me sit down and do the plus and the minus column, right? You know, so what are the good parts of this and what are the bad parts of this? And what I always loved was sitting down and listing all the positive things. Yeah, the negative things were there too. So it wasn't being, you know, completely head in the sand, but it makes you acknowledge, okay, well, I do have this going for me. So I think it's important to do that with our financial life once autism comes to live in our neighborhood or in our home. We get a snapshot of all of our available choices. What do we have in our plus column? And I mean literally everything. You know, what do you have? Things that you can sell? We're not saying that we're going to touch things. We're not going to say that we're going to touch our retirement. We're not saying any of that, but just listing what is available. What are all of the choices? Because sometimes when you list the choices, you begin to see, okay, I do have choices. I'm not going to sell my home and move to another state, but you know, the reality is I could, but I'm not going to do that. I think it gives us a little bit of breathing room when we know that we have choices. Now, having a house that's able to sell, you know, certainly not something that everybody has, and especially in this economy and in this housing market. You may have a house, but may not be able to sell it. So not the best example, but knowing what all of your options are, right? And asking yourself, once you list all of the different assets in the plus column of here are the things I've got going for me. And I imagine you probably know what are the things in the minus column, but if you're not clear on it, list those as well. But really with an eye to focus on what the assets are. But then you can start to ask yourself some questions. What's the least stressful in terms of the short term? You know, it's like plugging the holes in the dam and saying, okay, what do I need to do to get through the next 3 months? And that will be the least stressful, that I can manage. But then asking yourself, what's the least stressful long term? Now, and I will tell you, this is the mistake that my husband and I made, was that we kept dealing with the short term and saying, well, this is what we're going to do to get by, and we didn't have an eye to the long term, and it was much to our detriment. I'm going to be quite honest with you. So asking yourself both those questions: what's the least stressful short term? What's the least stressful long term? And then pursue the things that don't cause debt first. So if you have the option of insurance, and yes, it takes paperwork and it takes time and it takes initiative when you've got a whole lot of other things going on. I wish that I could make people understand, because they go, well, I just don't understand. You know, there are some people who probably have insurance and they haven't figured out yet that they have, and blah, 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 blah. These are my friends that don't have children on the spectrum and say, I don't get it. You know, and I say, well, imagine that your day is really full with a child who is engaging in a lot of challenging behavior, and now sit down and do a bunch of paperwork. Yeah, it's a little different than just sitting down and doing your taxes, right? I want you to do your taxes while juggling 8 kids who are pulling the blinds down off the wall, because one child with autism who's engaging in challenging behavior is a lot like having 8 children pulling things down off the wall, right? So, you know, it's hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but if we have the priority list and say, well, we're going to pursue all the things that don't cause debt first. So that means that we're going to apply for the grants. We're going to apply for the insurance. We're going to see all of these things before we move into the things that involve borrowing money from anyone or incurring any extra debt. It may be that you get into a situation where you have to get to that, excuse me, but make sure you've pursued all the other stuff first. And of course, the last thing on here is to seek financial advice. You know how they say that if something happens to you, if you have some sort of trauma, let's say a loved one dies, that they ask you not to make any big decisions in that moment. That even if you're a brilliant person and you're really, really centered, you are not going to be at your highest self to make decisions that are going to have long-lasting effects. Well, I can speak to the fact that when your child is diagnosed with autism and you have to rearrange everything else in your life and you're tired and you're exhausted, it is not the moment when you want to be making the big sweeping decisions on your own. We say get help with your child, get a BCBA who's experienced with autism in there to help you with the challenging behavior, but also take the time to consult with a really respected person who can give you great financial advice. And more and more parents who have gone through this experience and were in the financial world have come to the financial world now and said, I want to help special need parents. So you literally can go online and look for and see, financial advisor autism, and find someone who not only has expertise with finances, but also understands what it's like having a special needs family, may even be a parent who has gone through the tough years and really gets it, what you're going through, and isn't just going to say, well, stop having those lattes and it'll all be better. That was all the big financial advice that was shown on television when we were going through what we were going through. Well, if you would just stop having lattes once a week, you could build this into $1 million in your return. And I would think, latte? Who is having a latte? Right? But again, seeking financial advice and appropriate financial advice, make sure it's somebody that's trustworthy and that gets it. That this is not just a short-term issue for you. You got to have a long-term plan here. You'll feel better. You'll sleep better if you consult with somebody who can help you to chart a course. But again, looking at this and saying, okay, what do I have in my column? Anytime that I've had the opportunity to talk to a parent who's in that financial insecurity, that moment when it's all crashing down on you, and have said, okay, let's make a list. It's amazing the things that come up on the list. Parents who, have said, I don't have, there's nothing here, but they were able to see that they were in a position for a fundraiser, or they were able to see that they were in a position to apply for a grant, or they were able to see that they were in a position to tap into some funding that they hadn't considered before. So really worthwhile to take the time and make the list and say, okay, what do I have going for me? And it may be that, your brother-in-law has a cousin who's a senator. That's an asset, right? So it isn't necessarily the asset what you have in your bank account or what you have that you can sell. It may be who you know. I'm just saying. So think about all those things. Be gentle with yourself. Set yourself up for success. Don't do this when you're exhausted. Don't sit and do this when there's bill collectors calling. If you have to, unplug the phone and sit yourself down with something that's pleasurable for you, whether that be a glass of wine or a bottle of seltzer, and be uninterrupted. Get somebody else to watch the kids. I know that in and of itself can be stress-inducing, but call the best friend that you've got and say, I really need you. I need to take a moment and meet with a financial advisor and go through what my options are, because we're heading into a storm financially, and I want to head it off at the pass. And if you're already in the storm, it's not too late to do all of this. We can, all of us.